keeping them honest every night. AC 360. CNN, weeknights 10 Eastern.
We have found Eman Al-Obeidy, and tonight she risked her life to speak out. You remember the Libyan woman arrested and dragged off after telling reporters she'd been raped by Gaddafi forces. Tonight she defies Gaddafi officials who she says have continued to harass her and threaten her. She is defying them by talking to us. She says she's in hiding in Tripoli and has been told not to talk about the brutality she says she suffered and the brutality she says she continues to suffer. She's fearful for her life tonight, but says she has nothing left to lose. This, of course, is how the world first came to know her after she snuck into a Tripoli hotel full of journalists a little bit more than a week ago, screaming she'd been raped by Gaddafi's forces, gang raped by 15 men, bound and tormented, held captive. She had scars and bruises to prove her story. As she spoke, hotel workers revealed themselves to be government agents, assaulted her. They assaulted her verbally. One pointed a knife at her. Then one of them threw a coat over her head, and eventually she was hustled away. A few days later, Libyan state TV ran a tape of a woman being interrogated. It was Eman, it turns out, lying on a floor. Voices of people taunting her could be heard, telling her to do interviews on Libyan state TV, withdrawing her story. She refuses all of it. The government said that she was drunk. They said she was mentally unstable. They even called her a prostitute. The Libyan state TV anchor says right here, comparing her to a prostitute was insulting to prostitutes because, and I'm quoting here, even a whore feels patriotic about Libya. Well, tonight we know that Eman Al-Obeidy is still in danger, still in Tripoli. She says she was with her sister, but they were being harassed, and she's moved to another location so her sister isn't attacked. She says she's been rearrested several times. She's tried to flee for Tunisia, tried to get to the hotel where journalists are staying, but says she has been repeatedly stopped by Gaddafi's men on the street. I talked to her earlier tonight. When you first went into the hotel to talk to the journalists, how did you get into the hotel?
I arrived in a taxi that took me from the place of the incident. When I was stopped by the security, I lied and said that I worked at the hotel because the government does not allow any communications between Libyans and journalists.
You knew you were taking a great risk. Why was it so important for you to go into the hotel to try to talk to reporters?
After all I went through, there is nothing else that constitutes a danger to my life. Our life was destroyed, and our dignity tarnished. Our humanity has been taken from us. There is nothing else that has not been taken from us. We are even careful to the air we inhale and exhale in order to regain our freedom.
When you were in the hotel, you said, "Look what the Gaddafi brigades have done to me." What was done to you?
They abducted me. Prior, I showed to the journalists my hands and legs. I was bound and tied up. I was beaten and tortured. For 2 days, they violated my freedom without eating or drinking. I have further details to provide you with later on. I want to convey to the journalists that the brigades who are supposed to be protecting people, look what they did to me.
How were you originally taken by Gaddafi forces? Where and how?
I was in Tripoli, in a region called Ain Azhara. I was in a taxi when I left a friend's house and headed home when I was stopped.
What were those days like for you?
My feelings were that they had taken my humanity, that I would never leave this place. They told me I would never see the light of day again, that I would never be released or return home, and that they will kill me.
How did you survive? How were you able to survive those days?
Of course, they had my hands tied behind me, and they had my legs tied, and they would hit me while I was tied and bite me on my body, and they would pour alcohol in my eyes so that I would not be able to see, and they would sodomize me with their Kalashnikovs. And they would not let me go to the bathroom. I was not allowed to eat or drink. This is because I resisted them and tried to stop them from raping me. But the other girl, she gave up completely and did not try to fight them. and she was the one who was able to untie my hands and feet while they were sleeping. They were at all the checkpoints, and they would be drunk, and they would abuse all of the Libyans.
They raped you with a gun?
Of course, they are all armed. They have Kalashnikovs. When they were raping me, one man would leave and another would enter. And he would finish and then another man would come in. Of course, they would untie my hands when they would rape me. And one of them, while my hands were still tied, before he raped me, he sodomized me with his Kalashnikov.
Would they say anything to you? Were they saying to you, did they want something from you?
They would say, let the men from eastern Libya come and see what we are doing to their women and how we treat them, how we rape them.
How were you able to escape?
Among the kidnapped women, there was one girl who was no more than 16, and she untied me. They did not bind her because she gave up out of fear and did not try to resist them or try to fight them and hit them. At about 7 a.m., early in the morning, I was crying, and she came to cover me, and I begged her to untie me. She was so scared, but she untied my hands and feet, and she refused to escape out of fear of them. She gave me her name and address and asked me to report everything to the police.
When you were in the hotel room trying to talk to the journalists and Libyan government thugs were attacking you, trying to silence you, what was going through your mind?
I was not thinking anything when I came to the hotel. I heard about the existence of the fact-finding organization. I came here because I knew that the Libyan authorities won't respect my rights or talk about this issue and could have been jailed and nobody would have heard my story. I was just looking for my rights to be returned. I came even though I knew that the Libyan government would not leave me alone and would try to silence me. I knew that they could imprison me and that no one may ever know my story. And even when they were hitting me and trying to cover my face so that I would not tell people the truth, I was not afraid. I've reached the end of my tolerance for this as a human.
They finally, a woman in the hotel put a coat over you. A waiter there, a waitress, called you a traitor. Did you realize there would be so many government officials there who would try to stop you?
Everyone that is in the hotel that appears to be waiters or members of the staff, they are secret police. And I knew this. I know they were all members of the Secret Service and internal security forces and the Revolutionary Guard. And I know all of this. And I know I could even die. But there's something we are trying to tell the world. Gaddafi says that all the people here support him and that he is originally from the East and his roots are in the East, meaning there is no opposition to him at all. The people here live in hell, in detention, and a 24-hour state of terror. The same terror that happened to me in the hotel so that I would not speak.